Good afternoon, everybody. It's your boy, Pigskin Pete. Happy Wednesday to everybody. So the day after the very first college football playoff committee rankings come out, time to do a recap. Now the dust has settled. Now everyone's got their frustrations out of their system on Twitter and Facebook. And there's a few things about this committee that I found extremely interesting, and the way that they explain the way they rank these teams. And look, it's very inconsistent. And this has nothing to do with Clemson. Nothing to do with Clemson. I'm not upset with where Clemson is at all. And here's the thing that people are saying online, and this isn't them trolling. They actually believe this. They think that if Clemson wins out, goes 13-0, wins the ACC with non-conference games against Texas A&M and South Carolina, two SEC teams out of conference, that they are going to miss the playoffs. They'll be left out because the ACC sucks. That's what some of these people actually think. Look, if you think that, you're going to be extremely disappointed when Clemson goes undefeated and makes the playoffs. You're going to be extremely disappointed. There's no scenario throughout the history of the playoffs, or even in the future history of the playoffs, where an undefeated Power 5 champion is going to get left out of the playoffs. It's not going to happen. So I'm not worried about it at all. Clemson didn't have any room to struggle or lose a game in the first place because of the ACC. So whether they're at 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1, like I said, like I've been saying for the past couple of weeks, doesn't matter. They have to win out to get in. If they win out, they're in. If they don't, they're not. It's pretty much that simple. So this has nothing to do with Clemson. But some of these other teams, the way that they're positioned and the way that this guy, I don't know this guy's name. I probably should have written it down. The chairman of the committee this year. He's I know he's the athletic director at the University of Oregon. That's all I know about him. But anyway, so after the ranking ceremony each week, they ask this chairman guy, why did you have this team ranked here and there and there? And he's got different explanations for everyone. And this guy was stepping all over himself and had different explanations that didn't make sense. In some teams' cases, he was valuing the schedule that they played. In other teams' cases, he just said, well, we just think that they're better. we know they don't have as good a schedule or as good a wins, but we have them ranked higher because we just think they're better. I mean, this is the problem with the committee. And take Clemson out of it. Again, I could care less about that. There's several teams in here. If I were a fan of these teams, I'd be really, really, really pissed off today. Really pissed off. Minnesota. No respect for the Golden Gophers. Now, look, I understand that Minnesota has not played a strong schedule. I understand that. I understand that they had a couple of close wins on that schedule as well. I understand that. What is the point of football become these days? What's the point of football? Does winning not matter anymore? This is a Power 5 football team. They play in what some say is the strongest conference in the country this year. Now, you can disagree with that, but there's a lot of people that think the Big Ten is the strongest conference in the country this year. Minnesota's 8-0, and they're ranked 17th. And to make it worse, to make it a lot worse, Michigan is ranked 3 spots ahead of them in the Big Ten with 2 losses. Oh, well, that's because they lost to good teams. No, they didn't just lose. They got blown. What was the score against Wisconsin? I mean, that was like a high school team playing against Alabama or Ohio State. They got blown off the field by Wisconsin. The same Wisconsin that lost to Illinois. The same Wisconsin that got blown off the field by Ohio State. Another 2-loss team. So how do you have this team, Michigan? And I'm not saying Michigan's not deserving of being in the top 20. This has nothing to do with Michigan and everything to do with Minnesota. What does Minnesota have to do? Besides win every game in their conference to get ranked 3 spots lower than a 2-loss team in Michigan who got embarrassed twice this year? Twice. Not just one. It wasn't a fluke game. They got embarrassed twice. So if I'm a Minnesota fan, I'd say, oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They're going to have their chance. They had their chance to play Penn State this week. If they beat Penn State, they'll be fine. And, of course, if they go on to win the Big Ten. And yeah, that's all true. That's all true. I agree. Minnesota controls their own destiny. As much as you people don't want to, all you people that say that if Clemson can't make the playoffs if they win out, Minnesota is going to, they're in the same boat. The same exact boat. If Minnesota goes undefeated 13-0, wins the Big Ten, they're in the playoffs. Even at 17 right now. 17. They're in the playoffs. You're not keeping out a conference, an undefeated Power 5 champ. Not going to happen. Oklahoma. Now, look, was that probably a fluke game? Did everything go wrong that could have gone wrong? Did they lose, with the onside kick deal? All of that, yes. Is Oklahoma a top 10 team? Yes. I even had them in my personal top 10. They came in at 9 last night. But it's not about Oklahoma. Baylor. Again, this is similar to Michigan and Minnesota. This is actually maybe even worse than that scenario. Baylor ranked 3 spots below them. Baylor plays in the same conference, has played basically the same exact schedule as Oklahoma has. Oklahoma lost the game. Baylor hasn't. Oklahoma's ranked ahead of Baylor. And then what the committee will tell you is, or the committee chairman, I don't know about what the rest of the committee, I don't know what's going on the side of that room, other than apparently a bunch of, I don't know, maybe they're drinking too much, eating too much. I don't know, but they're comatose in there because what they don't make any sense. They're not consistent. They say, oh, we forgive Oklahoma. We understand that was a close, fluky loss. And they looked really good this year. Well, they play in the same, there's no divisions. So it's not like there's a weaker division in the Big 12 than, it's not like, the SEC East is weaker than the SEC West. It's not like the ACC Coastal that's weaker than the ACC Atlantic. It's not like the Big 10 West that's weaker than the Big 10 East. There's no divisions. There's only 10 teams. They all play each other. There's no weaker division. They play the same schedule. Almost like, outside of whoever the crappy non-conference games that both these teams play, they all play exactly the same teams. And then you'll say, oh, well, it doesn't matter because they're going to play each other. Well, that's true, but it does matter. Since when does winning not trump losing? Somebody explain this to me. There's no difference between their strength of record or schedule. They're identical. Same thing. Difference is one lost, one didn't. And they're ranked 3 spots lower. Now, do I think that Oklahoma's a better team than Baylor? I probably do. We'll find out soon. But what I think is irrelevant. It's all about wins and losses, baby. Otherwise, why the hell are we playing the games? It's stupid. Then you go to all right, so this 5-4-3, 5-4-3 mainly. Okay, so I understand why they have Ohio. Well, that's part of the issue too. I think everybody is pretty much in agreement. I think that most everybody's in agreement that Ohio State has looked like the best team, most dominant team in football this year. But when asked about Clemson, not, or Penn State being ahead of Clemson, this guy's, his exact words were, well, Penn State has better wins. They've beaten more highly ranked teams, I guess is what you want to call it, than Clemson has. That's why we put them ahead of Clemson. Okay, I'm with you on that. I'm not going to argue with that. Penn State should be ahead of Clemson if that's the logic that you're going to use. But then they ask him, okay, well, all right, so we get that. But then why is Alabama ranked ahead of Penn State? Because Clemson and Alabama have basically the same strength of record to this point. They played the same level of competition. As a matter of fact, according to the metrics and win-loss percentage and all that, Bama's actually played a weaker schedule to this point than Clemson has. To this point. That's going to change this weekend. So why would you put Alabama ahead of Penn State but leave Clemson, but not put Penn State? I mean, how does this make sense? And do you know what their answer to that was? Oh, yeah. Well, we just think that Alabama's better than Penn State. Same difference with Ohio State and LSU. They said, why did you have Ohio State 1 and LSU 2 when LSU has a stronger strength of record to this point? They beat more highly ranked teams, and been basically just as dominant. I mean, that's subjective too, right? I mean, dominating a Rutgers versus dominating an Auburn or whatever, or a Florida, that's a different story. But their answer to that was, oh yeah, well, we just think Ohio State's better than LSU. So what you have here is a committee that just basically does what they want. They'll and their explanation for it for each different scenario is not consistent. So what is it? What's it going to be next week? We're going to find out. Look, somebody's going to be pissed off every week. Somebody's going to be pissed off every week, I promise. So if LSU loses to Alabama by 2 touchdowns, we all know Alabama's going to move up to 1, I think. The winner of that game's going to move up to 1, so that doesn't matter. But how far does the loser fall? I don't know. We'll find out. But it's not consistent at all. And, it's different than years past. It really is that, they don't seem to really care about losses. All they really seem to care about is your schedule. So if you have a tough schedule, you can lose as many games as you want to because you have a tough schedule. This is the prime example of Michigan and Minnesota, and the prime example of Oklahoma and Baylor. They're telling you that, well, just, whatever. Yeah, you can win all your games, but you better win all of them if you want to even have a chance. Unless we consider you to have a hard schedule, then you can lose as many games as you want. And this plays into the fact that, the argument that I had that everyone would call me stupid about when I was on Uncle Lou's morning show last week. I said that if Georgia loses to Auburn, but still wins the East, because they will hold the tiebreaker with Florida. So they would still win the East assuming they went out. They only lose to Auburn. And they're a 2-loss Georgia, and then they go to Atlanta and beat either Alabama or LSU, whoever the representative is, out of the SEC West, and win the SEC with 2 losses, they'll be in the top 4. They'll be in the top 4. People call me crazy. People call me stupid. There's never been a 2-loss team in the playoffs. Well, just because there's never has been doesn't mean there won't be. It's going to happen eventually. And anybody that thinks that the SEC champion, provided that they don't have 3 losses, is going to get left out of the playoffs is in la-la land. You're delusional. The SEC champion's getting in the playoffs. Period. So stop it with that. It's going to happen. Now, it doesn't matter. If they don't lose to Auburn, then that's all for nothing. But my point is it really the best 4 teams? Because that's what they say. Or at least that's what it's been up until this year. Right? Because I'll use Clemson and Penn State as an example. All right? Now, it doesn't matter because Penn State, if they lose to Ohio State, which they're probably going to in a couple weeks, then they'll get leapfrogged by Clemson. And that's just the way it's going to be, guys. They're one spot apart. I don't care who Clemson plays from now and then, till then. If Penn State loses and Clemson keeps winning and winning good, dominantly, then Penn State's going to drop behind them. It's just all there is to it. But Vegas right now, if you were to put Penn State and Clemson on a neutral field, Vegas would have Clemson favored by more than 10 points. If you put Clemson and LSU on a neutral field, I think that they would be probably about a pick 'em. I don't know what the line would be with Ohio State and Clemson. But my point here is it really about the best 4 teams? Here's the other Vegas metric. And Vegas is usually, talk about non-biased. Vegas is all completely non-biased. They're all about that money, baby. They don't care about what your fandom or anything like that, or what conference you think is better. All they care about what team is better. In Vegas right now, Ohio State and Clemson lead the nation in chances to win the national championship. So, don't look at me. I'm not a Vegas line setter. I'm just telling you the facts. Go look it up. So that tells me that Las Vegas thinks that Clemson and Ohio State are the two best teams in the country. And that's about as non-biased as you get. No, anyway, it doesn't matter. Again, Clemson's right where they need to be. Clemson could have been ranked 6th or 7th last night. It wouldn't make a difference to me. Because all they got to do is win out, they're going to get in. If they win out, they lose, they're out. So it's the same situation no matter what, whether they were 4 or 5 yesterday. Doesn't matter. But the disrespect and inconsistency to some of these other teams. If I was a Minnesota fan, I'd be hot today. I'd be hot, real hot. And they'll have a chance to win out and make the playoffs. But I don't know. They're not supposed to rank them based on what they think they're going to finish. They're supposed to be ranked on what they've done now. And what they've done till now is win every football game that they've played in a major Power 5 conference. So to have them ranked 3 spots lower than a 2-loss team in the same conference it's really embarrassing to the committee. No consistency there. All right, so we'll continue to do these videos. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Believe me, I can already see the comments. The ironic thing about this is you would think that, of course, there was some Clemson fans complaining about being disrespected. I'm not one of them, okay? But whatever. But just go look at my Twitter feed. Ohio State sitting there ranked number 1 in the country, and they take to Twitter to talk about Clemson instead of Ohio State being number 1. That's what they did all night last night. They're all over my Twitter feed. They think, these fools actually think, because they're ranked number 1 in the first rankings, that they already won the national championship and that Clemson's not going to make the playoffs. Believe me, and they're not even trolling. They really believe this. They think that now that they're ranked number 1, that they're automatically winning the national championship, and that since Clemson's not in the top 4, they're not making the playoffs after the first ranking. This is what they think. I know why they think that. It's because it's not thinking, it's hoping and wishing. But hoping and wishing is worth nothing in the real world. And I know they really hope and wish Clemson doesn't make the playoffs, because we all know that Clemson is your daddy. Have a great day. Pigskin Pete checking out.